NATO rolls the dice in Ukraine, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Russia's iron-fisted leader, Vladimir Putin, has warned of consequences. Yet the West presses forward, with boots on the ground now looming as a real possibility. The world watches Russia's next move, as global panic rises and the threat of catastrophe hangs in the air. A major claim has been made, and confirmed by none other than Russia's ambassador to London. In an interview with RIA Novosti, Andrei Kelin said British military officers are working undercover in war-torn Ukraine. Not mercenaries, not volunteers, but specialized officers. He claimed the British elite personnel are working under the cover of the UK's diplomatic mission. In another shocking claim, the Russian diplomat said that these UK officers are also quietly advising and providing specialized combat training to the Ukrainian armed forces. He even goes further, adding a warning that London is deeply concerned about how this plays under international law. Kelin claims, despite public denials, there are plenty of ways being used to present the situation in a relatively decent light. He recalled that in December, London acknowledged the death in Ukraine of British Armed Forces officer George Hooley. Hooley died in an accident while training Ukrainians in the use of military equipment donated by the UK. Days later, the UK Ministry of Defence too put a stamp on Russia's claim, admitting the death of a British serviceman in Ukraine while observing a Ukrainian armed forces weapons test. The Sun newspaper reported, citing sources, that an air defense accident in Ukraine that killed a British soldier has claimed the lives of at least 4 other Ukrainian soldiers. According to the newspaper, Hooley served in the British Special Forces support group. He was testing the air defense system in Ukraine. NATO's role in Ukraine may be far deeper, far closer, and far more direct than the West admits. London has yet to respond to these latest claims, but the allegations, if true, could mark a dangerous escalation in a war already on a knife's edge. Meanwhile, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed the true cost of war with Russia, which has been raging since February 24, 2022. Zelensky claimed that around 55,000 Ukrainian troops have been killed since Russia launched its full-scale invasion.
In Ukraine, officially on the battlefield, the number of military personnel killed, whether career soldiers or conscripts, is 55,000, and there are a great number Ukraine lists as missing.
Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has revealed that around 55,000 Ukrainian troops have been killed since Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022, with many more still missing in action. As negotiations grind on behind closed doors, the war continues to claim lives on the ground. In an interview with French broadcaster France 2, President Zelensky described the scale of Ukraine's losses as devastating, confirming that tens of thousands of soldiers have died, while a great number remain unaccounted for. Zelensky also delivered a striking political message, claiming that Russian President Vladimir Putin is afraid of U.S. President Donald Trump. He said this fear should shape Washington's approach, insisting that no American leader should accept conditions dictated by the Kremlin. Zelensky argued that Ukraine's security is inseparable from global stability, warning that treating the war as a secondary issue would carry consequences far beyond Europe. He said this message has been central to his discussions with Trump, stressing that Ukraine must remain a geopolitical priority.
In Ukraine, officially on the battlefield, the number of military personnel killed, whether career soldiers or conscripts, is 55,000, and there are a great number Ukraine lists as missing. Putin is only afraid of Trump. That's a fact. What Trump should say to Putin is not for me to say. If President Trump knows that Putin is afraid of him, then he cannot accept all the conditions set by the Russian president. It is Putin who is afraid of Trump, not the other way around. In my opinion, the United States has other priorities in terms of geopolitics, but the United States needs to understand that Ukraine is important. This is a crucial point in my discussions with President Trump. He needs to realize that Ukraine is important for global security.
Separately, President Zelensky confirmed that Ukrainian and Russian negotiators have agreed on another prisoner exchange expected to take place in the near future. He said Kyiv's position remains unchanged, stating the war must end for real and that Russia must be genuinely prepared to do so.
There was a report from our delegation after today's meetings held in a trilateral format. There were also contacts between the team and the American side. The report was delivered by Rustem Umarov, Kirilo Budanov, and David Arakamia. The guys were in contact. We discussed the interim results of the negotiations for today. They will continue tomorrow. There will also be a significant step. We expect a POW, prisoners of war, exchange in the near future. Captives must be brought home. Overall, Ukraine's position is very clear. The war must be ended for real. Russia must be ready for this.
These remarks come as Ukrainian and Russian envoys met in Abu Dhabi for another round of U.S.-brokered talks aimed at ending the nearly 4-year conflict. The delegations were joined by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, highlighting Washington's direct involvement. However, even as talks continued, violence escalated. A Russian strike using cluster munitions hit a crowded market in eastern Ukraine, killing at least 7 people and wounding 15 others, according to local officials. Meanwhile, Moscow has issued a stark warning. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Russian forces will continue fighting until Kyiv makes what Russia considers the right decisions to end the war. Those demands reportedly include Ukraine withdrawing its troops from the heavily fortified Donetsk region, effectively surrendering territory regarded as critical to Ukraine's defenses.